Alright guys, HyDra here again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Mercules continues to get major gas by the community, winning the World Championship at the first time of asking and his first ever event victory at that, and probably not his last, based on the way that things are looking as it stands. A question that the CDL asked many of the players over the last few weeks, saying, hey, when things aren't going your way, what's your go-to excuse? And Mercules gives probably the best answer of anyone as a rookie straight into the league. Octane giving his perspective as well on some of the Maven drama over the last few days. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Just to quickly mention, if you guys watched the Dope Check show the other day, Dom was on top form this show, like absolutely on top form. We were talking about quite a bit, and especially about Simp's cards, because Dom was saying before the show, like the previous week, that, you know, he had Simp if he won the event as the greatest ever, and then Simp turns up to the event, drops a 58, and, you know, it was burger on burger crime, as Don said, because Simp was doing the damage to Dylan Shreks and putting him out of the tournament to giving him the Burger King card, and of course Simp managed to avoid the Burger King card because Dylan Rex was 55 rated and Simp was 58 rated, but Don suggested on the show that because Simp's card was like so bad, and we're probably never going to see a card like this from Simp ever again, and we certainly haven't over all the years he's competed. I mean, Simp's never had anything even, you know, really approaching the 70s typically. There's maybe been a couple that he's had in the 70s, and it's all, I wouldn't say it's arbitrary. Obviously the numbers are real based on the stats that he had. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, it is just for fun. But to see Simp down in the 50s was unprecedented, and we were discussing, okay, do we need to make like another Burger King card that's not quite the Burger King, it's a little bit better, it's a little bit higher quality fast food chain, and well, we went with this one. So not quite the Burger King, but this is the official Simp World Championship 2025 card. Feel kind of bad, but it is pretty funny, and I think Simp could use it as motivation going forward. And you know, people were saying that he came into the tournament on Thursday and he went out on Friday. So look, it's just yeah, it's tough, isn't it, right? What exactly happened though at the World Championship for FaZe is still pretty remarkable. I will say that FaZe are getting a lot of the criticism. It's definitely deserving for Thieves as well. I mean, you know, we can't gloss over the fact that Thieves are the favourites before the tournament. What happened there at Champs is a question mark. I think there was a lack of preparation for some of those teams. Certainly for Thieves, that was true. I think they got complacent to some degree. Shotzzy, that's what he had to say, to be fair, the other day as well. But even for FaZe, I mean, did they get nervous? They turn up to the big one. As I say, on the first couple of days, it's not like the crowd out there was crazy. So it was maybe just the pressure of the fact that it was the World Championship, and sometimes you get punched in the mouth unexpectedly and things start to spiral. Pretty remarkable to think about that, you know, there's been talk for years about Silver Surfers and losing in finals and all this, and who are the champs chokers and whether that's even been a thing. And now Scrap's in that conversation, and once again, for the third year in a row, the FaZe boys fail to make the grand final at the World Championship. So this was interesting as well. I did share this briefly for you guys yesterday, but I wanted to dive into a little bit more because the COD League doesn't have many sponsors left, as we know, and they tweeted out yesterday, thanks to the sponsors, one of which is the World Cup, who, I mean, like, you know, they sponsor everything. That's not really, and they're kind of partnered anyway. Is it really a sponsor? Don't know. Monster only came in halfway through the season, and Scuff have been the partner for years. So it's a strange turn of circumstance, right? Because there's no monitor partner, there's no like chair partner or whatever, like peripherals and stuff like this, you know, headset, right? Like back in the day we used to have Astros in my Afros was what Afro, like that's his Twitter thing, that still confuses me. But yeah, as Alt says actually, no headset and no chair sponsor, kind of crazy too. And it did used to be Astro, right? And then there was all of these allegations and the lawsuits that happened at the Bobby Kotick drama, and everyone kind of pulled out. But to some degree, some of the companies kind of came back, but certainly not all of them. And yeah, the league is let's just say pretty sparse. I don't know where we go from here, but I'm sure there's some options, because Jake Hell says that in ALGS they've got 5, Counter-Strike has 7, LCS has 7, VCT Americas has 5, like at least, you know, a solid number. And the COD League is just still cooked, but you know, it is what it is. We can only hope that things get better going forwards. There's been talk about some BO7 stuff, what happens next, and, well, as Ghost of Hope says, look, let's just give us some good maps. It was a little confusing what they decided to do with Fringe. Fringe is now back in the game from BO3. Of course, phenomenal, fundamental map. I love Fringe. But it was designed for a jetpack game, and we no longer have jetpacks. And there are certain areas of the map that, you know, jetpacks were not exactly a necessity, but certainly very useful. I think those who have played Hardpoint on Fringe will tell you that the third hardpoint in Grandma's is pretty tough, right? Like, getting into that hardpoint, it always was the money hill anyway, but with jetpacks it gave you a couple of additional options for the way that you could approach Grandma's, the gunfights that you could take, the ability to try and get out of tin without, you know, it was difficult. And also getting out of tin, sometimes people would use active camo, right? Like, I think the game was very different back then, because Grandma's was difficult to break as it was, but if you were trying to get out of tin, you might pop camo, or you might, you know, be able to use one of the specialists to help your team break. Nowadays, everyone's just set up on headies, and there isn't really a good counter. You also have the big height disadvantage. You know, Grandma's Hill it's a challenge. On boots on the ground COD with no specialist, and then the tracks side as well is very much designed to be wall ran on, and that's not how it goes. So, you know, look, I think bringing back Fringe was a perfectly good idea, and I think for Search and Destroy, definitely a map that I would be thrown into the map pool with immediate effect. For Hardpoint, I can see why there's a debate on it. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, any excuse to talk about BO3, if I was to bring back a BO3 map for boots on the ground, I would have brought back Strongholds, because I think Strongholds, of the maps in that game, maybe there's a couple of options as well, but Stronghold is like my favourite map in COD ever, near enough, and I also think that with a couple of small modifications, it would work for boots on the ground without much difficulty. Fringe, always as a map, was very much designed around the jetpacks, whereas Stronghold, not necessarily so much. So I'm hoping that we get to see that come back at some point as well, because I think that would work really well, but obviously I'm biased. You know, guys know how it is. But is Fringe going to come in? I don't know, we've not heard anything about it yet. I think it would be cool to see it thrown in for Search and Destroy. I don't really see what the disadvantage to that would be. Get rid of, like, Protocol Search isn't bad, but I am fed up of watching it, so that's probably what I would do. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. We are going to talk about some of this Maven drama, because the last few days, Maven was giving his thoughts on the state of the CDL, OpTic's victory at the recent World Championship, whether it discounts everything that's happened over the last season, right? The fact that they won champs. And Aches was saying that, well, nowadays the World Championship isn't really the World Championship anyway, it's only the playoffs, it doesn't count as much as the ones that I used to win back in the day and all this. And look, there's an argument both ways. I think this is very interesting. This is the World Championship card of OpTic Gaming when they won it back in 2017. They played 10 series to win that year's World Championship. OpTic, for example, just played 4. And FaZe, when they won it in 2021, they played 3, right? So, you know, it obviously is a different story. But also they played, what, Threes Up? I think that's the name of that team. Epsilon, Echo Fox. They played Mindfreak Black. Like, their first 4 games of the tournament were against teams that they should have beaten very comfortably indeed, which is what they went on to do. So it was more of a gauntlet to win, but equally you also got to play teams that were significantly worse, rather than only the best teams in the world. That Splice series still haunts me. Then they beat FaZe, lost to Envy in the winners finals, took down LG, and then of course won back-to-back in the grand finals to take the ring. So yeah, just interesting to see how things used to be back then to where they are today. Whether it really changes the meaning of the World Championship is a question, and, well, I'll share what Octane has to say in just a second here, while we also talk about this clip that the CDL come out with yesterday. So they got the players to sit down. I think this might have been back at Major 4, maybe. I forget exactly where they did this. Maybe it was just before Champs, actually, because they came out with quite a lot of content here over the last few weeks. But, yeah, so they were asking them all sorts of questions, and this is one of them, which I thought was a pretty good one, really. What's your go-to excuse when you get cooked on a map but you don't want to admit it? And they sit down with aBeZy, with HyDra, with, you know, Purge, right? With players that have won world championships. Okay, not Purge, not TJ Halley, but Mercules that now applies to. With Ghosty, right? Other great players in the league to give their perspective on this. And, like, they sit down with insight. And obviously this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. They're having a joke. They're giggling around a little bit. And that's nice to see. But also, of all the answers, there's a very common trend as to like, okay, yeah, if I'm getting cooked, I'm not playing that great, if this guy just smoked me, I'm going to say, you know, we've all been there, right? I got joked. Damn, I'm lagging like crazy. Damn, that guy, like, what's going on? Is he host or whatever, right? You know how it is. And Tej says, yeah, it's got to be the internet. Ghosty says, oh, well, you know, if I'm online or on LAN, then I'm definitely blaming the internet. And I just thought it was interesting to see, like, Insight's response is pretty funny as well. They're like, can I get some help, please, boys? And that wasn't my fault that I just died. But of all the answers that were given here, and, you know, these guys multiple champions and all this, Mercules just says, yeah, if I'm getting cooked, I'm getting cooked. It's on me.
If OpTic didn't try last year, that's on them. I think it's actually pathetic, honestly. I don't think any team was trying last year, bro. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
PwC, that's on them. But that's just...
I don't think anyone was.
I mean, that's pathetic, honestly. Thing to it, because just as the prize pool. But to say that so few teams try to EWC, no, that's dumb as fuck. There's $1.8 million up. Teams were trying.
Disagree. I don't think teams were.
Well, I mean, if OpTic didn't try last year...
It's okay for his boy Ken, who said they didn't go hard for EWC. We've also had Attach play down its importance. JBC said on stream, coming from winning champs affects them. He didn't know when scrims pick up. I mean, bro, it was blatantly obvious that people weren't trying for EWC. People just view it as like an all-season tournament. There's a shit ton of money involved in it for sure.
Getting cooked on the map, my first excuse, I gotta say the internet. I mean, we're playing on 20 ping on Dallas, and then nobody can kill me on land, so I don't know.
I'm getting joked.
I was probably getting joked.
My go-to excuse when I'm getting cooked on the map, and I don't want to admit it, is I'm lagging. I think I'm lagging out, boys.
If I get cooked, I get cooked. Not much you can do.
My teammate's not helping me. Online or LAN? You know, first, you know, number one, we're blaming the internet, for sure.
So it's only a couple of second clip out of Mercules, but I think it does give you some insight into the player that Mercules is, because when all the other guys are saying various things and Merc says, yeah, okay, look, if I get slammed, I'm gonna own up to it. I'm not gonna blame anyone else. I'm just gonna take accountability and say, yeah, okay, I got smoked by that guy. It is what it is. And look, as Mercules been there as well when he said, damn, like I'm lagging like crazy or whatever. I'm sure we've all been there. But as a player, I just think Mercules is very impressive on multiple fronts, right? Like he's come into the league, what he did with Toronto, and I think Toronto also deserves some credit for being able to slot him in as well as they did. I think what we discussed at the time about that system is true to some degree, but also Mercules did a stellar job and nobody is denying that. And then to come into OpTic and for them to be very good immediately, get top 4 at the first tournament, maybe could have even gone further, and then to turn up to the World Championship and be the best team by a significant margin was, yeah, crazy to say the least. I'm sure that Mercules had some things to teach the guys as well. Does Mercules qualify as a generational talent? What does the future look like here? How many more championships? How long is he going to stay on OpTic? These type of questions are very difficult to answer, obviously, but I think Merc seems a bit like the full package, right? Like he's got the gun skill, he seems to have the mentality, seems to have the work ethic, got the game understanding as well, which is a big thing. Shotzzy said that he's smarter than 95% of the players in the league. Maybe it wasn't Shotzzy, but maybe it was JP. I don't know. I think it was Shotzzy anyway. He said that, yeah, he's just smarter than basically every other flex player in the game, and he's only been playing Respawn for a couple of years. And it seems like he's got the discipline and, you know, the ice as well. Okay, maybe the championship grand final wasn't his strongest time, but, you know, he's making big clutches against FaZe at the world championship in pressure moments, right? Like, the kid does seem to pretty much have it all top to bottom. So, yeah, it would be a surprise, let's say, if this guy was playing anywhere else other than OpTic over the next couple of years. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Just to close out with a cool thing that Jake Hell tweeted out. Name a former COD pro that most people on here definitely forgot about. So this is Gerdip, Sunny B, Baines, legend from back in the day, played on a few teams, such as he was on that Fnatic team with Tommy, Scraps and Waskin famously back in 2017. There's loads of great replies to this, really, and Clayster comes up with some good ones, like some real OG players, you know, Halifax, Dodgers, people talking about Dylan Codd, although I think most people probably are still aware of his tenure. You know, we've got the likes of Josh Watson, we've got Nelson, Desire, honestly, was quite a player back in the day, Nagafed maybe is a decent one as well, you know, CDC points out Risk from BO4 Denial, so there, you know, there's loads. I think Remy's a pretty good shout. I mean, he was in the World Championship Grand grand final in 2015, and since then, I mean, even Jet Li, that Midnight Esports team with Parzelion and those guys, yeah, remarkable timeline. People talking about Cold Chan and stuff like this, players that were around. There was even some talk from Temp about LXT. So he was like a UK player from back in the day, got into a bit of controversy, but Temp says he was one of the most talented players that he's ever seen ever, and then it just didn't work out for various reasons. So yeah, interesting story really, just to look back on some of the players that people either forget or like streets won't forget type characters really in the COD scene. But very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.